Welcome to the LinkedIn Workshop. My name is Jesse. I'm an employment specialist. Shout out to our host, Works4You Employment. Let's get started. Today's topic, we're going to talk about the importance of social media. We're going to talk about LinkedIn profiles. We're going to talk about LinkedIn tools, things that we can learn from LinkedIn, as well as going over some general tips. Before we get started, I'd like to start off by saying social media can be a very useful tool, a place for you to build your network, share your professional story, learn new things, stay up to date with your industry, and find new opportunities. But it can also be an enormous waste of time if used incorrectly and can even hurt your career. Extensive social media use has been linked to mental health issues, phone addiction, self-esteem issues. With that in mind, I'd like to just mention a quote. At first, art imitates life. Then life will imitate art. And then life will draw its very existence from the arts. And the same can be said for social media. So with that in mind, I'd like to say that your value is not predicated on your likes, your shares, your connections, your friends, your retweets, your subscribers, your followers, any metrics that are out there on social media. You are also not a personal brand. You are a human being with your own personality, with your own unique passions, your own story, your experiences, and a unique skill set to offer. So with that backdrop, we will start our conversation on LinkedIn. So the first part of any good LinkedIn profile, of course, is your profile pic and your background. This is the first visuals that anyone sees if they click on your LinkedIn profile. So you want to make sure that you set off a very good first impression. Your background is just a picture. It can be something that speaks to you. It could be something that speaks to the company that you work for or your profession. In terms of your profile pic, I recommend having a good headshot, not a selfie, very clear, well-lit, professional look. Remember, this is your opportunity to set a first impression in a professional setting. The next part of your LinkedIn profile is your name and headliner. An excellent feature on LinkedIn is the pronunciation function on the mobile app, which if people have difficulty pronouncing your name, you can actually upload a sample of your voice pronouncing your name. Now, when it comes to your headliner, you want to use a job title, but not just your current job title, a job title that describes what you do. So when people are searching for you and they're looking for, say, an employment specialist, we'll use mine, they can type employment and my name will come up. So you really want to use a title that describes what you do. In the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of people using inflated or meaningless job titles to try to make themselves look more professional or bigger than they actually are. And some of them are director of first impressions in replace of receptionist, sourcing ninja, which I've seen used by IT, HR, and procurement. So it really doesn't even speak to a functionality of the business you're in. Recently, I've actually seen an employment specialist advertised as a rock star. I've seen job captain used in place of manager. And recently, I've seen an employment specialist recommend people use the term firefighter to describe their ability to handle complex IT situations. Now, this last one I really want to address because being a firefighter is a designated profession. It's an emergency worker. So you don't want to use titles like that even when you're describing your skills, because a firefighter is a designated profession. You can actually get in legal trouble for using the term firefighter on your resume. Same as social worker, same as paramedic, police officer, any of those designated professions you really want to stay away from unless you are registered and accredited with that body. So another great feature of LinkedIn is you can customize your URL. And how you do that is by going to your edit intro on your profile, scroll down to the bottom, and you click the little pencil that has contact information. So you want to edit your contact information. Then you can go to your profile URL, click on that, and that will take you to edit your custom URL where you can enter in anything you like. I simply used my name and the industry that I'm in, which is the industry of employment. You want to use something general so that if you're going for multiple types of jobs, your URL doesn't clash with the job you're applying for. Now we'll talk about the individual sections within your LinkedIn profile. There's the About You segment, a section about your experience, then your education, licenses and certification, volunteer experience, skills endorsements, recommendations, accomplishments, and interests. The first segment in your LinkedIn profile is the About You section. Think about the question, tell me about your professional journey, or tell me about yourself. This is a great place to answer that question. You can talk about the story of why or how you became the professional that you are today. You can talk about your areas of service. You can even go into guiding philosophies or ethics. Basically, the About section is an icebreaker segment and a basic introduction on who you are. Next part of the LinkedIn profile is the Experience section. And there's three major features that I would really talk about. One is that you can actually link this section to your company's LinkedIn page, which is great because if someone's ever looking through a company profile, they can see who's worked for them before in the past. So it actually gives some credibility to you as a professional if you're linked with your company's LinkedIn page. This is also a great place where you can go into depth on a job in terms of what you do. So things that you can't address within your resume itself, you can go into much greater detail on your LinkedIn page. Now, some people say that it's better to do bullet points, and other people say it's better to do paragraphs. I'm going to say it's dependent on the information that you're looking to articulate. Either one will do. It all depends on what you're looking to convey. And finally, the other advanced feature of the Experience section is the attachments and links. You can actually link your profile to videos, to websites, or to a professional portfolio. So these are all great things that you can do with the Experience section. Next in the LinkedIn profile is your Education section. Like the Experience section, you can link this to the college or university that you attended. There's also a section for you to go into a description of the activities that you did while you were in college or university. You can also have a whole description of the program that you attended. Another really good feature is the attachment section, and this is where you can put links to class projects or, again, maybe an education portfolio. Again, really good feature. Next is the licenses and certification section. If you've taken a course and gotten a certificate, it's a great place to list that education. Next is the volunteering section, which is very similar to the Experience section as mentioned above. The principal difference is that it does not have a place for you to put attachments or links to. The next two sections are skills, endorsements, and recommendations. Under skills and endorsements, this is a great place for you to showcase relevant skills to your industry. So you can add new skills, you can remove those skills from your profile if you wish, and there's ways for people to verify that you have these skills. So one is taking a skills quiz. Now, most of the tests in that section are mostly software, but other people can also endorse your skills. And you can pin the ones that are the most noticeable. So you can pin up to 3 skills that you feel are noteworthy for your industry or career. I chose job search strategies, recruiting, and interviewing, partly because I feel that these are the top 3 skills that I use on an ongoing basis. Now below, your skills are separated into 3 sections: industry knowledge, interpersonal skills, and other, also known as hard skills, soft skills, and then other skills. So if it's a skill that's not been designated as one or the other, LinkedIn generally just puts it into an other section. Another thing that you can do is ask for recommendations from people. So it's kind of like a little blurb or reference from another person. So that, again, can give some credibility to you and your skill set. The next section in your LinkedIn profile is the accomplishment section. This is a great place for you to list courses. Maybe you speak more than one language. You can showcase your scholarships or awards, as well as talk about different organizations and working groups that you've been a part of. Now, I don't have these other sections on my LinkedIn profile, but other people do. So there's patents, there's projects, there's publications, and there's test scores. So if you have an interesting project that you really want to showcase, this is a great place to put it. If you have been published or had your works put out there in publications, again, great place to showcase your work. Now there's a section on the bottom called interests, and it's generally 4 areas. So companies that you're interested in following, schools that you're interested in following. There's also groups that you can join, which is a great place to do a lot of networking. And then you can follow individual leaders, which is what they call influencers, within your LinkedIn account. Now, the main reason for using LinkedIn, of course, is the networking. So you want to be adding people that you know, people that you feel comfortable doing business with. So you don't want to water down your network. You want to have a good network that you feel comfortable doing business with. People that you can add that you don't know are called LinkedIn Lions. Stands for LinkedIn Open Networker, and they'll have lion in their headline or right after their name. And these are people who are basically saying, I am open to networking with anybody on LinkedIn. So it's an open invitation. Good, solid connections for your LinkedIn can include students you used to go to school with, current as well as former coworkers, people you meet at job fairs, people you've had informational interviews with, former bosses, new connections, vendors, customers, people that you meet in professional networks or within your professional life. By far, the best advantage of using LinkedIn for your networking is that when people within your network change jobs, your LinkedIn network updates itself. So you're always aware of where your connections are, depending, of course, on when the person updates their profile. This is quite important because before, we'd have to rely on business cards and we'd call a place to see if they were still there or email them. And if they'd moved on, we would actually lose that connection. So LinkedIn has been able to create a platform that allows you to preserve your connections. Now, I'm going to go over 5 really good ways how to stay in touch with your network because you don't want your network to go stale. So a great way to do that is to congratulate people on new jobs and whenever they have a work anniversary. An advantage to this is at least once a year, you are connecting with everyone in your network. Another great way is to share or comment on things that they post on LinkedIn. You can actually request informational interviews with people. So if you're looking for jobs and you're looking to find out more about a particular skill or company, you can actually send people requests for informational interviews. One thing that I like to do to give back is to send out job postings to people within my network. So when I'm job hunting for a particular candidate and I come across a job that's not very useful for my client, but might be useful for another person that I know on LinkedIn, I'll send them the job posting. And they will look for ways to stay in contact with you for the future. And the 5th way is to introduce people within your network to each other, to make your network more dense. Like I said earlier, people rarely forget when you help them and you got nothing in return for that help. And this is one of those things that you can do that will help others, and they will remember that. So later on, when they have something that comes up and they have an opportunity to think, who would really benefit from this, they may think of you. So when you're introducing 2 people on LinkedIn, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you've talked to both parties, that they're interested in an introduction. You don't want to just blindly introduce someone. When you are introducing them, you want to make sure that you give context to the conversation, a starting point, so that they remember what this is in regards to. You want to be brief. You want to have common points of reference or common points of interest. So here's an example that I wrote for a good informational interview introduction. So I start off with the subject, informational interview. Good morning, Abbott and Costello. Abbott, I would like to introduce you to Costello. He is very interested in learning about the St. Louis baseball team and getting to know some of the players. Costello, I'd like to introduce you to Abbott. He is an expert in the St. Louis baseball team. Please feel free to connect directly. Sincerely, Jesse. Bonus points if you know what sketch this is in reference to. Now, when you are inviting people to LinkedIn, It's important that you send out customized connection requests. This is easier to do on a computer than it is to do on your phone. And in your conversation, you want to remind people where you've met and something interesting about the conversation. This serves to jog their memory so that they can pick up on the conversation where it was left off. Also, it's a great tool for your own memory. So if you can't remember where you've met the person or how you came to be connected, because we can remember all 500 people we've connected with and where we met them and all those circumstances. Just saying. You can then just scroll to the top of the conversation window and see your original invite and then make the connection. This is where I've met them. This was the context. So you have a starting place to jog your own memory if you think you're going to meet them or see them later on. So here's an example of a LinkedIn invitation. Hello, John. It was great to have met you at the City of Toronto Career Fair. I enjoyed our conversation on how to become a contact center rep for Toronto 311. Again, I would like to connect in case I have any additional questions. Now that we've talked about sending out LinkedIn requests, what if you get one that is a canned request? So someone has just sent you a request with no real explanation on what it is that they're looking for. Well, first things first, you want to use your discretion. If the person is sending you a request from outside of North America, are they really going to be a great help in your network? So it's important that you want to be letting in people that you want to do business with while keeping people that you don't feel that you can do business with or won't do business with out. So it is okay to reject people's requests that you don't know. But if you are interested in connecting, you might consider sending them a response that stimulates a conversation. So here's an example. Hello, Johnny. Thank you for your connection request. I'd like to learn more about your areas of interest so that I can best serve you within my network. I noticed that we are both in the employment industry. How did you get involved in the industry? Has it always been a passion? Question mark. This is great because it starts a conversation on interests, maybe the industry, maybe about the passion that the person has. It's a great conversation starter. At the end of the day, some people send out canned LinkedIn invitation requests as a form of cold calling. So you want to be aware of that as well. Another great feature on LinkedIn is the LinkedIn news feed. So you can actually put in a bunch of hashtags, and this will bring up articles of interest that people have used the same hashtag in your newsreel. There's also a dashboard which shows how many people have viewed your profile and your posts. There's also a section about LinkedIn news. So these are top articles that people are talking about, as well as some trending courses that's part of LinkedIn Learning, which we will talk about in a little bit. Here is LinkedIn Learning. And as you can see, they have a trial on right now for 1 free month. This is a great place to build up your profile, particularly in the certifications and in the certificate section. And they have a little section where you can see what each course is about, and then you can go ahead and take the course. Again, great opportunity to build up your LinkedIn profile. Now, when we're talking about LinkedIn, we can't talk about LinkedIn without talking about LinkedIn jobs. So again, you can set up alerts with LinkedIn, and it can be applied to a particular geographical area. It also has a feature where it will actually show your skills versus the job that you're applying to. So again, this is a great place to flush out what you need to have in your profile, as well as what should be on your resume. I'd like to end with my top 10 LinkedIn tips. The way that I like to perceive as LinkedIn is as a master resume. This is a place where you can go into detail on things that you wouldn't necessarily do on your resume, but you can extract later for some applications here, some applications there. It's LinkedIn with a capital I at the end, not LinkedIn with a lowercase I at the end, and this has to do with branding. You want to budget your time in general on social media, no more than 5 hours per week or 1 hour per day. Again, you don't want it to become something that sucks all your time. Number 4, some people treat LinkedIn as a contest to see how many connections they get. At the end of the day, no one can tell how many connections you have over 500. So there's very little point in doing it. I actually find that the more connections you have, the more effort goes into maintaining those connections. So having tons and tons of connections isn't necessarily worth the effort. You want to add people you want to do business with and you feel comfortable doing business with on a daily basis. LinkedIn is something you want to be purposeful with. It is a tool for business. Don't send out mass requests for recommendations or endorsements. You want to be strategic with who you bring into the picture. Now, the last three are kind of connected. So no personal updates like cat photos. You want to avoid oversharing certain aspects. And you want to stay away from bad talking about companies or coworkers or employers. At the end of the day, this is a professional tool, and it should be treated as such. It can be a very powerful tool, and you don't want to use it in the wrong way. So in summary, we've talked about uses for social media, that it's a tool that can greatly enhance your job search. We've talked about LinkedIn profiles. We've talked about how to manage your network using LinkedIn. We've talked about how to use it for additional professional development. We've talked about LinkedIn Learning. We talked about LinkedIn News. We talked about the different functions of LinkedIn, such as looking for jobs on LinkedIn. And we closed out with some basic tips on how to use LinkedIn effectively. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you for watching our LinkedIn workshop. In the About section of our LinkedIn profiles, I talked about it's a great place to put your why story. If you're interested in learning how to create a story about why you do what you do, or a story about what inspired you to do what you do, feel free to check out our cover letter workshop. A link is in the description. If you found this material helpful, please consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing below. Shout out to our host, Works4You Employment. Thank you very much for joining. We'll see you next time.